Welcome to the Monday, December 1st, Washougal City Council Workshop Meeting. Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Boger.
Here.
Councilmember Wagner.
Here.
Councilmember McDaniel.
Here.
Councilmember Greenlee.
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman. Councilmember Lindsay.
Here.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll see Connie Jo. There she is.
Yes.
Wearing purple.
Purple. Is this the plan?
Purple's always
You
good.
got the memo?
Close your ears, Trevor. Especially after an Apple Cup win. It's a wonderful thing. First item on the
Sorry
agenda
for my
are public
tardiness.
comments. Any members of the public that would like to comment to council? Yes. If you would, pop over to the microphone and give us your name and address, please.
My name's Robert Innes, and I live at 428 West Dogwood Street in Washougal. And this evening, kind of in preparation for the meeting with the BNSF on oil trains a week or so down the road, I'd like to give you a little historical vignette about a train derailment in Washougal. Around 10 p.m. on the night of November 22nd, 1970, a 90-car BNSF freight train was headed eastward from Portland to Wishram when one of the axles on car number 30 burnt out, causing the upper part of the car to drop down on the tracks and start tearing up 400 feet of the rail. And behind it, of course, 16 cars piled up. One eyewitness described them as piling up in a teepee shape till they touched electric power lines and set off a blinding flash that kind of illuminated the whole scene. The engine and 29 cars proceeding ahead down the tracks before they came to a stop. 16 cars scattered all over the place, and the rest of the train coming to a halt behind that. Now, what does this derailment story tell us? Well, according to the BNSF spokesman at the time, Jim Hagel, the tracks were in good condition at the time of the accident. The problem was not maintenance of the rail bed. It was in good shape. The problem was the rail car. Now, the interesting thing about the rail car was that they had taken precautions against this kind of accident. They had what's called a hot box at the outside of the rail, which provides lubrication, and BNSF had put detectors on the hot box, which should show the carman who comes by to inspect the cars before the train starts rolling that lubrication's in good shape and there won't be a problem with that axle. But for whatever reason, although they had the detectors and the carmen were supposed to be doing the inspection, still something didn't go right, and car 30 went out and the train derailed. So, you know, besides condition of rail beds, you have to be very aware of the condition of the rail cars themselves. So you have to ask what kind of system is in place to ensure the integrity of the cars that are on the tracks. The one other thing that I think this kind of incident makes you think about is the nature of the cargoes themselves. This was a freight train. And of the 16 cars that derailed, 9 were empty. So no cargo to be concerned about. The other 7 were either freight cars or flat cars with truck trailers on them. And fortunately, none of the cargoes were explosive or contained something flammable that would have been set off in this accident. So, but compare that to an oil train. An oil train would probably have 100 cars, each of which is kind of like a rolling bomb that if it went off, could level city blocks and scatter shrapnel all over the place. So in spite of the best efforts of the railroad, these accidents can happen. And so we have to be very concerned about public safety implications of however low the probability may be, there's still a chance that it could happen. And if it happens with an oil train, the effects could be catastrophic. So that's something we should be concerned about, and I hope that you as a council will give very careful consideration to what BNSF says, and then to supporting Vancouver in urging the governor to not approve a terminal that will attract more and more oil train traffic. The last thing I want to do is thank the librarians next door and Don Feldhaus of the Post-Record for digging up the articles my presentation is based on.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, where in Washougal was,
East Washougal, I believe it was east of 32nd.
thank you.
So, you know, out where Washougal High School is today. School district office.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Rick Marshall. I'm a real estate developer. I'm actually in Camas, but my wife works for the Washougal School District. And I think it was about 3 months ago, I think I may have been the first person to come and speak to you about the oil trains. So you can blame me a little bit for starting this off. Anyway, I just wanted to thank the council for considering measures to protect our communities from the unsafe oil trains. I am very concerned. We have a lot of family and friends that live up and down the tracks, and it's a big concern right now. One thing I would throw out is I think BNSF is going to speak a lot about their response to an incident. And just keep in mind that to an extent, a response is irrelevant if that incident is a worst case. I mean, no response is going to bring folks back to life. So just keep that in mind as you hear their presentation. And then lastly, I would just like to add, I know a lot of this may seem out of our jurisdiction. It would be nice if these things could be handled at the federal level. I know Canada has already banned the use of the most unsafe type of tanker cars. We're not there. So, you know, when in the light of not getting that, what can we do? Well, we have to do what we can do locally, and I just want to thank you again for considering a resolution to keep our community safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Anyone else that would like to address council? Okay. For those of you in the
Mayor, would
audience.
this be a good time for me to update the resolution?
Sure.
I'm still working on it. One of the reasons I haven't come up with a draft is I learned something last week that distressed me a little bit. I think we need to add to it. They're undertaking what's called a gap analysis, which is the gap between what we need for emergency services and what we have. And in the scope of work for the EIS for the project, they're going to do a gap analysis for Vancouver, but that's it, nobody else. And so I think one of the things we need to deal with is to bring that to the attention that Washougal is not included in that gap analysis, and I think that's something the resolution should address.
Good point. For those members of the public that may not know, next Tuesday evening at 5:30, we have a meeting, the council has a meeting with Burlington Northern officials. That'll be up at Washougal High School now in the auditorium. The schools have moved around some of their stuff, so now we'll be in the auditorium. So if we have a large crowd, it'll be hopefully able to accommodate everybody, but no matter what, it'll be a better setting for the discussion to take place. So certainly if you've got questions or those type of things, filter them through to the council. There won't be an opportunity for the public to ask questions. It's more of an information finding for the council, and hopefully we're not sitting there too much waiting on Burlington Northern for presentations rather than council asking direct questions and hopefully getting some direct answers. So next Tuesday, 5:30, Washougal High School.
Okay, can I ask you a question? If for the members of the public, should they just email you or another member of the council with questions?
Or everybody, it'll be up to folks, and I know we've already started getting some from other folks who understand that we could be there all night if everybody was asking questions. So it is certainly up to folks who get it, whether the questions get asked or if they're mixed in with some other ones, so.
And then when will the next city council meeting be after that presentation?
Undetermined right now. We have council meetings scheduled for tonight, next Monday, and the following Monday. It just depends on passage, frankly, passage of our budget.
Okay.
We've got to pass a budget before the end of the year, but for the most part, other than the Burlington Northern meeting, we don't have a whole lot of pressing business prior to the start of January, so if we can, we might take some time off,
And
if we can.
First meeting in January is the second Monday of January.
Okay, with that, our first order of new business is a presentation from the Parks Foundation of Clark County. Sherry, welcome.
Hi.
You've got some board members with you
I
as well.
do. So, well, first of all, thank you, Mayor Gard and members of the City Council, for giving us time to come and talk with you again this year about what we've been doing and our plans for the future. This evening, I have Board Member Jim Luce with us. Jim is retired from, help me out here.
Too many
Bonneville
places.
Power.
That's
He's an attorney for
And-
Bonneville Power.
And the Energy Siting Council.
Yes, so we're very fortunate to have him on the board. Scott Miller is here. Scott's been on the board a couple of years now, and he is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and something else.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So it says a lot about our board that they're here. They've been attending these presentations with me, wanting to be involved and wanting to have some face time with the cities and show that they are an engaged and involved board. So happy to have them here. You can ask them all kinds of questions when I'm done talking and see how much they know. Okay?
They're taking notes now.
Okay, so just want to kind of give you a background. I know almost all of you were here last year when I came and did a presentation, but just to refresh your memories, we're an independent, nonprofit organization. We're dedicated to raising the quality of life for all of the citizens of Clark County by improving and vitalizing the parks, trails, and recreation programs of Clark County. Our vision is thriving partnerships with communities like Washougal to ensure uncommonly vibrant parks, trails, and recreational programs throughout Clark County. Our mission is to raise funds through public and private partnerships. And when we say public and private partnerships, we have some wonderful examples of partnerships here in Washougal with the grants that we've been able to provide for Heartwood Park, the Barnyard Playground, the pickleball court, and where you'd see the city contributing funds for Heartwood Park with a grant, almost, $36,000 from the city, $24,000 from the Parks Foundation, and a great partnership. Pickleball court was an even better example, where we had city funds, we had Parks Foundation funds, donation by a private citizen, and then a wonderful force of in-kind labor from your pickleball enthusiasts. So that was a great ribbon cutting, and we were just thrilled to be a part of that. So when we talk about partnerships, we're talking about businesses like Riverview and their sponsorship of our grants, but also we're talking about how we partner with the cities and the citizens. Here in Washougal, we also work with Suzanne in helping raise funds for your kinetic art project out at Steamboat Landing. It's an exciting project. We see growth in that each year, and we're really happy to be a part of that. And I did forget to introduce our photographer over there. I'm sorry, Lisa. I even had it written down here. Lisa Howley is our graphic designer, so she's the one who makes us look good, all of the pretty pictures and all of our wonderful promotional materials that we have. We're very fortunate to have her and for her to come out here and be a part of this evening. So.
Your own paparazzi.
Yes, I travel with the crowd. Our values are the parks, trails, and recreation programs of Clark County. Get caught up here on my notes. I get talking and then So we are committed to the enhancement and preservation of parks and trails and the stabilization of and expansion of recreational programs. We value a healthy community, which includes increased quality of life for all citizens of Clark County through the vigorous and regular use of safe and enjoyable parks, trails, and recreational programs. We value our healthy community by maintaining and sustaining our parks and recreational programs and facilities as desirable options for recreation. And we value our partnerships, which I just talked about. We're committed to aligning strategic partnerships, ensuring accountability to all donors, and the leveraging of our donations to achieve maximum value and profit, or benefit, profit, yeah. We're just trying to make a lot of money. So anyway, just kind of what I was talking about. We take funding from Riverview, and we're able to match that with other money. We got community members contributing and just putting that all together and doing some wonderful things in Clark County.
Isn't that tractor up at Heartwood Park?
That's it.
Yes, yeah, I was thinking that was our tract.
So since the launch of our community grant program in 2009, we have awarded $422,365. I think you all remember me coming out here in 2008 and talking about the grant program, and we had $8,900 to distribute. So we have done amazing things with our grant program, and that's because people like it, they get excited. It's fun to see things happen in your own community, to know that we mean it when we say we are the Parks Foundation of Clark County, and we're here for all of you. So the puzzle that is Clark County's, do you guys want to see that again? The puzzle that is Clark County's parks, trails, and recreation programs is complex. But with your continued support, the city councils, the governments, the citizens, the parks departments, and that of our community partners, this puzzle will become more complete, creating a picture that inspires and motivates all ages now and into the future. So that just gives you just a smidgen of the puzzle that we work to complete. Our theme this year for our end-of-year appeal is "We are good with puzzles." And so I think that just really fits what we do here. Take little pieces and try to put them together and make a more complete picture for parks. So here in Washougal, I've just provided a list there quickly of all of the grants that have been funded for Washougal, the most recent being the pickleball court. A lot of trail building out here. It's been exciting to be a part of that. We have Councilmember Greenlee as a featured star in one of our videos talking about the trails and the work with the Parks Foundation. So I'm just going to go through the other cities real quickly, so you just kind of an overview of what all the Parks Foundation grants have funded. In Camas this year, it was the Washougal Greenway Observation Deck, and that was another awesome partnership. We had a $15,000 donation from a community member. Georgia Pacific contributed, Tidewater contributed, we had some funds, and then the city pitched in. And altogether, we were able to grant out over $30,000 for that project.
Excuse me, when will that be finished?
Well, it's a very good question. They're running into some environmental issues that they're having to have addressed, and then I believe they're hoping for spring, so they're a little bit behind where they had thought they would be. In Ridgefield this year, a new swing set in Abrams Park, replacing an outdated and unsafe swing set that would have just had to be taken down and with nothing replacing it. And that's another one that's still not quite up yet. Battleground has consistently asked for funding for their summer playground program. And that's a program that has been sponsored by Riverview Community Bank, which, again, is just a wonderful partnership. They go out and visit the site. They've managed to expand that program into Ridgefield now, received some more funding for that. We've got children from all over North County that participate in that playground program. I don't know if you want to say anything about it.
Well, it's, as a cold, heartless corporation, sometimes it's nice to actually go out, you know, and you see these kids, and some of them are stay-at-home, some of them are in daycare, but some of them never get a chance to actually get out. And you see them. It's over 10 weeks, 2 days a week. I think it's for 3 or 4 hours, and they're doing arts and craft. They're doing nature. They're just playing tag sometimes. But to see the interactions, and then dozens of volunteers. I mean, 17, 18-year-old volunteers who are so passionate about it. It really makes it worthwhile. And of course, these are, for us, many of these are people living in low to moderate income families. And so to be able to, for us to be able to work with the Parks Foundation and the City of Battleground, it's very rewarding, you know. just as it's been, like when we did the William Clark Park, you know, a lot of things are just very rewarding.
Well, this Thursday, you're helping with Santa, Pictures for Santa.
Yeah, that's
at the,
right.
Christmas parade.
Are you going to be Santa?
Oh, no, no, no. No, but every year we provide cameras and film and the printers, so they get the picture with Santa, they get immediate gratification, so,
It's an important part of that.
yes.
Took the
Yeah.
picture, where to
Yes.
go.
It's no good without the picture. In Vancouver, our community grants have funded community gardens, nature play areas, and this most recently, fitness equipment in Homestead Park. The fitness equipment had actually all been removed because it was unsafe, and the Neighborhood Association went to the City of Vancouver Parks and Recreation Department and asked for them to apply for a grant from the Parks Foundation on behalf of them, because that's how our grants work. It has to be applied for through a city, not just a small group. We would go, can you imagine, we would be inundated. It's worked extremely well that it's all filtered through the city. It's your priorities. It's what you've said, this is what we want. And so this year, the Neighborhood Association was able to convince the Parks and Recreation Department that that would be a good use of a grant. And the summer playground programs has been a big focus of our grants. It's what they've asked for every year, and we've helped them. Oh my goodness, for 4 years we worked trying to cobble together all kinds of funding from the United Way, Walmart, Comcast, just all kinds of groups, just to get enough money to keep the Evergreen Summer Park Playground Program going, which is a park in a very low-income neighborhood. They actually, through a partnership with Share, bring lunches out each day for those kids participating in the program. And they serve about 75 children a day out there. And these are kids who would not have anything, you know, their parents aren't going to take them to soccer camps or, you know, over to Portland for different things that are going on. And the most exciting thing about this is that after all those years of working so hard to cobble that together and keep it going, the Todd and Maxine McClaskey Foundation were watching and saw what was happening and came down and did a site visit. And they liked it so much that they pledged $26,000 for the next 5 years to fund 2 summer playground programs. So the Vancouver Parks and Recreation was actually able to open up another one in another low-income neighborhood this last summer. And we've got 5 years of funding, so that helps us, okay, that's taken care of, and helps us be able to set our sights on other things in Clark County that could use our attention as well. So another example of working really hard, someone's watching, and voila, it happens. Clark County is their new department this year. So in the past, the grants had been applied for through Vancouver Clark Parks and Recreation, and this year Clark County applied for a grant separately, and it was a trail extension at Vancouver Lake. I've actually been down walking on it several times, so if you are a walker and you just go from the service road and head, I'm really bad at directions, but towards the end of the road, and they're doing a really good job. It's all being done through the Washington Trails Association, but the materials were provided through a Parks Foundation community grant, which was actually funded through the Dorothy Langsdorff Family Fund. So another example, we had a family come to us. We have money in our mother's name. We'd like you to hold it. Our focus is trails. And so each year I would contact the family and say, here's some trail projects that are happening in Clark County. And finally this one resonated, and they said, yes, that's the one. That's the one we want to fund. And so it's happening, and it's another perfect example of a partnership. I put down a couple of other grants for Clark County because Clark County is our county. We all live in it. And the Vancouver Lake Waterways Trail Guide is a county-wide. That's for kayakers and canoers. It's Vancouver Lake, Lake River, and Lewis River. And then the Discovery Guide printing, which is all of the parks and trails in Clark County that were done through. It's kind of, you know, with it all splitting, I don't want to go into how that's working, but anyway. And then another program that is really a Clark County is the Everybody Plays Scholarship Program. Vancouver Parks and Recreation applies for it from us each year to fund programs, recreation scholarships for kids from low-income homes at Furstenberg and Marshall. but it's a county-wide scholarship program. Any child in Clark County from a low-income home is eligible to apply for those scholarships. So I tacked it on over there. The City of Camas is looking at starting a scholarship program like that, and I know I mentioned when I was here last year that it's definitely something that we're happy to do with any of the cities that offer some sort of recreation where there's children who potentially aren't able to participate. And if you've got a system, it's so important that no child is excluded from any recreation opportunities. And then the town of Yakult got a complete full skate park. It took a few years, and they applied for that in phases, and it's really, I've been up there a couple of times. It turned out wonderful, very heavily used, gives the youth in Yakult something to do, a place to go. Scott's seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at the ribbon cutting.
Who's the concrete guy?
Dave, North County.
North
Concrete.
County Concrete. And it was great to find somebody, one, that knows concrete, but they also wanted to find a way to give back. And it wasn't just going up there and just pouring a slab. They took a lot of creativity, and they said, the first couple of tries, it didn't really work out exactly, and they said they defied the laws of physics in a couple of ways when they
Or the kids did?
it. Yeah, and then when we actually had the ribbon cutting, I mean, it was like half the town came out, for a skate park, and so it was just really, really cool, and the kids were just amazing. I mean, it's a combination of athleticism and artistry, So I can only catch a football. I couldn't imagine doing what they were doing. So
How big is it?
About the size of a basketball court, I guess. Maybe a
The
little
full,
bit wider.
Yeah.
A little bit wider, but about the length. Yeah.
And there's
So
kids
90
on their
feet.
bikes
Yeah.
using it, scooters. It's not just, it's, kids.
Yeah.
You give them something, they find a million different ways to use it. But, and again, North County Concrete did provide some in-kind support for that so that it was able to get the costs down. Where this year, they applied for one phase, and between the cost cutting from North County and some funding that we had available, we were actually able to go back to them and say, guess what we're going to do? We're going to finish it. Let's not keep doing this in phases, because it actually saved a lot of money by doing it all at once. So how fun is that to go back to a town that asked for phase 2 and say, we're going to go ahead and do both of them. So that was pretty exciting. So in addition to directly funding programs and projects through our community grant program, we also act as a conduit for fundraising in support of a large number of special programs and projects. And at this point, we actually hold funds for 46 different special project funds. That's each of the cities has special projects under their account. As you can imagine, it's become kind of a big part of what we do. It's a little bit of a monster, but it's important. It's important that we're here for the citizens of Washougal. They want to do fundraising for something in a park, that they have a nonprofit group they can go to hold those funds, to provide the receipts, and to help them promote the fundraising on our website, whatever way that we can. And so it's something that we are committed to providing as a service to the cities and town. So I'm just going to go through some of the programs that we support, either through helping with fundraising or the 50 and Better program is an example of a bequest that we received from the Theodore Barney family. And when he passed away, they left $750,000 to the Parks Foundation, specifically restricted for senior programs at the Rudy Lupke Center. So each year, about $35,000 is funneled over to senior programs at Rudy Lupke, and then these are some of the kinds of activities that it funds. It can only be used for activities, and there's a group there that sits down and makes the decisions based on the voting of all of the people who use the center. So it's pretty rewarding to be a part of that. Swim programs. We have Bauman Chiropractic in Vancouver. Each year provides $12,000 to the Parks Foundation to fund $6,000 worth of swim lessons for children from low-income homes. So It's specifically, we have our scholarship program, but then they say, no, I want these to go for swim programs. They believe passionately that all children should know how to swim, especially in a community surrounded by water. And then the other 6,000 goes to open up the Marshall pool one day a week, each Saturday afternoon, and it's a free family swim session. So families can come and swim and not have to pay to participate. Trail building and improvements, as you well know, out here in Washougal is a big part of what we are involved in and committed to. And this little boy is from in the soccer uniform. I think all of these, well, 2 of them are from Ridgefield, but I believe the rest are all Washougal. The Friday Teen Late Night at Furstenberg and Marshall Community Centers was a victim of budget cuts and was shut down, but through grants and again kind of the cobbling together of all different kinds of funds, working with the Vancouver Parks and Recreation, we have been able to keep that open. We've had Furstenberg Family Foundation, Community Foundation, the Young Philanthropists through the Community Foundation, this year Umpqua, Wells Fargo. So you can see it's a constant dance, but the community does see the value in offering a place for teenagers to go on Friday nights. And that program, they welcome teenagers from all over Clark County. It's definitely not just the city, and there's even some teenagers coming over from Portland and up north. Very important, and I've visited it, and it is really fun to watch those kids. They're having a great time. It provides them a safe place to go on Friday nights. Inclusion and access to recreation are a big focus for us. We help the sensory camp moms, as we call them, each year in their fundraising efforts to keep that camp open. The summer sensory camp is the only camp in Clark County for children with sensory disorders and autism. And it was, again, one of the budget cuts, and the moms came to us and said, they told us if we can raise the $25,000 that it takes to keep this camp open, that they'll run it. And those moms did it. And that money all came through the Parks Foundation. We provided the reseating, we helped them promote it, and they've kept it running ever since, although this year we are applying for some grants for them on behalf of the summer sensory camp to try to take the burden off those moms a little bit. Community gardens have been funded by the Parks Foundation, not the one here that's in your picture, but but we would have.
It's a great community garden to take a picture of.
It's beautiful. It is so pretty. Again, trail maps and trail guides, water trail maps. And each year, the flowers in Propster Square are funded through the Parks Foundation, our sale of Propster Square memorial bricks. And we've managed to keep the flowers there. That was originally funded through the Propstra Family Foundation endowment that they had provided. And when that ran out, the city came to us and said, is there a way that we can keep this going? And the sale of bricks has managed to do it each year, and volunteers come out, and the Hilton provides lunch. So again, a wonderful partnership. And so in addition to projects, we have our own, just a couple of programs of our own, and the one that has the most meaning is our Florence B. Wager Awards, honoring excellence in service to parks, trails, and recreation. Each year we solicit nominations from the cities from all over Clark County, and I know that you're all aware that last year Suzanne Grover won the Tributary Award, and that honors a staff member in Parks and Recreation. And I know I don't even have to tell anyone here how wonderful Suzanne is. She's absolutely one of my favorites. And the other winners were Barbara Anderson with V Formation Flyer, is an outstanding volunteer. Lloyd Halverson and Kelly Putney were honored as leading eagles. And then this year we honored Val and Dan Ogden with a new award called the Mighty Columbia. And that's sort of a as appropriate award that we will bestow. Those are given out at our annual luncheon. I know a lot of you joined us for that last year, and thank you for that. This year we've moved it up. It's Thursday, April 30th. And I hope that you'll all join us at the luncheon. That's when we give out our community grant awards and also honor our Florence B. Wager Award recipients. So put that on your calendars, Thursday, April 30th. It'll be at 11:30 at the Hilton. Another fundraising event that we have is St. Patty's for Parks. I know Mayor Guard has joined us at that event. The Friday evening event is a 21 and over event. We have Irish music, we have the Molly Malone Dancers, the Vancouver Firefighter, Pipes and Drums, Five Guys Named Mo, Irish food, Irish beer. It's just a true fundraising event, and it's very fun. I hope that more of you can join us for that this year. It's a great fundraiser, and we owe a lot to Shorties for opening their nursery up and facilitating that for us. So the next day what we do is we welcome children for a free family event. We've had over 500 children attending that each year. Our nonprofit vendors, our partners join us. They set up booths and do all kinds of crafts and activities. We had 26 different activities for the children to walk through Shorties and participate in. At the end of the path is the Pot of Gold, which is this year was sponsored by Walmart, and so each child gets to pick a toy out of the Pot of Gold for getting their passport filled in. It's a great event. Even if you don't have kids, come watch, and it's very fun. And so that's how we kind of give back to Shorties for the St. Patty's for Parks, but also it's how we demonstrate to the community the importance of the work that the nonprofits in Clark County are doing, as we have just about every nonprofit who has a child focus or environmental focus joining us that day. And our Par for Parks will be on Monday, August 17th at Camas Meadows Golf Course. Still the biggest fundraising event we have is our golf tournament. Always looking for new sponsors, and supporters and golfers need to fill the course. It's very important, just an important event for us. So how can you help us? You can help us by following us on Facebook, either renewing a membership or becoming a member, signing up for our e-newsletter, attending our events. That's a biggie. Attend our events. Talk to the people in Washougal. Tell them how much fun those events are. None of them cost a lot. But it's showing that we're there, you're there, that you support us, and you understand the importance of our work. And advocating for parks, and just, again, spreading the word about what the Parks Foundation is doing. So that's why we come here every year, just to remind you so that you can help us spread the word to your constituents. So do you have any questions?
Jerry, thank you for being here to remind us of all the things that, or some of all the things that you folks do. Council, just so you're aware, there's not really a hook on the end of this. The city does pay into the foundation.
Yeah, there's a hook.
The city does pay into
Yes.
the foundation, which,
And we thank you for that.
you know, and on one hand, you can look at it and say, gosh, should we be supporting, you know, any 501c3 that comes along? On the other side, I think in the few years that you've been handing out awards, we're probably north of 40,000, a little less than 50 that we've received.
I might even just have that amount right here. But yes.
Our total contributions until last year, I think was the year we upped our contribution to $500 a year. It was only 100 or 200, so we might have $1,500 into this for a return of
Yes.
40-some, moving to 50-some thousand dollars. So it's been a tremendous program for us, and she's right. The programs that they do, none of them cost much, and they're some of the coolest things to go to because you're doing things for parks, you're doing fun activities, and everybody's smiling and having fun. It's not one of those things where it's work or it's anything else. So,
Well, Sherry and Jim brought to my attention that my membership in the foundation had lapsed,
Has
so
lapsed.
I renewed it.
And thank you.
I would
for
urge
that.
Thank
I would
you.
urge my council colleagues to do the same.
I don't
Been
think
good.
mine lapsed.
I have a list.
you too. It is December.
Like Santa Claus, I'm checking it twice, okay? So,
He's the closer.
you know, the junior member of the board gets to come and ask people, in this case particularly electeds, because your membership makes so much difference, because it demonstrates to the public at large, and we advertise the fact of who our members are, that the community leaders are joining in this. And as you said, Mayor Guard, I mean, the return on the investment here, I don't think the city's getting any better return on the investment that they made at 500 for 40,000. You know. I'm not a great mathematician here, but I can pretty well tell you that that's probably the best investment you've ever made. Speaking of individual memberships, Brent, thank you very much. Some of you have been members, but your memberships have lapsed. Joyce, I know, we talked about this, October. And,
It was still
and I know you'll rectify that.
No, I signed up at the luncheon,
Oh,
so I
okay.
should be at the
Okay,
next
you
luncheon.
may be all right.
I'm
Paul?
all
I
right.
signed up at the luncheon.
All right. Well, the rest of you, it's not really reflected, and I don't have the data from the luncheon here, but seriously, Connie, Dave, Paul, you signed up at the luncheon, Paul, but others of you, who really, and city managers too, we need that membership. We're trying to get to 5, here's the deal. We need to show by the end of the year that we have 500 members. It's really important that we do that. Memberships are not expensive. I mean, memberships, we're giving it away. I mean, you know, an individual membership is $25. A family membership is $50. And such a deal. I thought about this today. Are any of you familiar with the Heifer Project?
Yes.
Okay. And you can give up half a pig or a flock of chickens. There's no reason you couldn't make a donation on behalf of and join on behalf of your friends. So I'm going to pass these around, and these are just for council members to join. But think about it. Think about all of your friends out there who would love to be members of the Parks Foundation for $25 only, and a tax-deductible credit, which would be yours. You could honor these friends of yours with a Parks Foundation membership. And you know, I don't mean to be flippant about it, but it seriously is very important. And it does send a signal to the community that you care,
Yes.
both as a governance body, which we know you do, but also as members of the Parks Foundation trying to stretch these dollars. So hopefully we'll be checking the mail here in the next week or so. It is almost end of the year, and anything you can contribute in terms of a membership or otherwise, in addition to that, would be so much appreciated.
He's right.
A report to the community there on the table.
Yes.
And that gives you some breakdowns on a lot of the information that Sherry has shared today, and gives you specific dollars. And again, we invite you to
Right.
snap a QR code and definitely join in our year in the field.
And as when I talk about pretty projects, Lisa's very much responsible for the beauty of this. It really is, it leads to our credibility. If government officials aren't supportive of the work that we do, then why would anyone else? So, and 500 members, if you think about the population of Clark County, wow, that's, that we don't even have 500 members, it just kind of breaks my heart, as hard as we work. So,
And as many people as show up at the events that you've got as well.
yes.
They're supporting
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So Jim, I'll do you one better. If for some reason Annie and I aren't already members,
All right.
and I've got to double check and see.
All right.
Okay, so, since my accountant just walked through the door, rather than buy a family membership for 50, to help you get to your 500, I'll do 2 singles for 50.
That's a good idea.
That's great.
You can get 2 members.
That's great. Excellent.
That math
and,
I can.
You know, and the heifer analogy works. I mean, we've all got Christmas cards list, and you never know what you're going to give somebody. You know, you got all this stuff. I'm trying to get rid of stuff at my age, and you probably some of you are too. So instead of sending them a thing, a fruitcake or something like that, send them a membership in the Parks Foundation. They'll greatly appreciate it.
The gift of green.
The gift of green.
So you can see why we recruited him to be on the board, huh?
Retires from practicing law, goes into salesmanship. And maybe just goes somewhere. Thank you so very much.
Do you have a trail map for Clark County?
They are, I do. I have
Okay.
some at my, I
I'm
have a
getting tired.
hidden
I'm
stash in my
tired of flying
desk.
to Maryland or California to go hiking. So.
Yes.
And if my knees hold up, I'll be out that pickleball court.
It's so nice. It turned out so good.
Ready?
Who was it on the council last year that asked me about pickleball? Was it you, Connie? I think it was.
Could have been.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was.
We
Because I had never heard of it.
I've actually played on it. but right now my knees are acting up.
Right,
but,
you and I are in the same situation.
Yeah,
But I have never seen such a turnout at a city council meeting in support of a project like the pickleball court.
Yeah.
And the economic impacts of that as well. I mean, it's great, those of us can go out and play, but they hold a convention here. You know, and there's a spillover effect. I mean, they're buying goods and services here in the community as well. So I think that sometimes is overlooked in terms of what happens with the park. We play on them and then we buy things. Buy things is good.
I just have to give a little plug for the pickleball. Ours is only seasonal because it's outdoors with no cover. And I kept pushing, get a cover, get a cover. They go over into Camas to play in the winter because they do have an inside court there. So who knows, maybe next year we can do something.
They also come to
toward-
Furstenberg.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I bet, yeah. How many do they have there?
Depends on the day and how many players, but I go out to Furstenberg every Sunday for, an hour or so of working off the Saturday night. And I've seen upwards of 8 different courts going on at the same time.
Good.
I'm still told we're the only free one.
We're the free
That's
one.
nice.
I live right across the river from the pickleball courts, so on a beautiful Saturday morning, I can hear them at 7 o'clock in the morning. And in good weather, on a weekend day, they're in continuous use from first light until dark. I'm surprised at how much use they get in what I would think of as marginal weather, because again, I can hear them over there. And it's not only on the weekends, it's during the week, on weekdays, that they get quite a bit of use. I wish all of our investments in parks and recreation were as heavily used and got such kind of bang for the buck, if you will. That's been a terrific project.
And you've got a huge variety of population using the pickleball courts.
I'm sorry?
A huge range of population using the courts. I think that's
Yes,
wonderful.
from silverbacks to children, yeah.
That's what I'm called now, silver. Haven't thought about that.
And so one of the things, just to leave you with, when the cities apply for community grants, I'm sure you all know we get a lot more in requests than we actually have in our kitty. And I think the thing that is the most exciting is that we're able to go out and talk to businesses or talk to individuals and say, hey, there is this awesome project in Washougal that they want to fund, and we don't have enough money. Could you help us? And it's generally pretty, people really want to do it. And so when you know what Washougal is applying for, because I don't know yet, keep that in mind. Help us help you, because we never have enough money, but somehow we manage to just cobble all these partnerships together. And I think that you all might have some ideas of who would want to stand up there on the stage and hand you that check and be that person who gets to have their name on the ground. So, or sometimes people don't want that and they don't have to, but it's a great way to provide some recognition for businesses supporting projects out here in Washougal.
And also, you may know businesses that they want to give back to the community, but they may not know how, or they have a particular mission, but they don't know
Just
who to
call me.
talk to, And so we take it from, the other perspective. So if you know of any small business owners that want to give back and want someone that can partner with them to fulfill their own, social responsibilities, that's what we're here for as well.
Thank you very much.
So we'll
Thanks.
see you
Thank-
all
thank you all.
at the luncheon, if not St. Patty's for Parks, or both.
Or both.
That would be wonderful.
Again, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. Scott, thank you, and Riverview for helping this Thursday. And you and Jim for your enthusiasm and being on board and helping. We appreciate the checks coming our way every once in a while.
Yeah, and we appreciate them coming our way too.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
So this part
Or is
is
that-
mine.
I didn't get a
It's un-
flyer.
Membership.
No, the membership. I didn't get one.
Membership thing?
That's our end of year.
Let's see. Oh, okay, I don't know.
But did you take one?
Yeah, I already, since I've already
Can we
signed, yeah.
let, yes, since we know you're
Mine,
good.
'cause I have a
Yeah.
current membership.
I think I'm current too, I'll check.
Your name is on the membership thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, then,
Well, we keep people on for a while.
Make it January
pull you
1st, so
off.
every year when they show up, yours is still.
I'm ready.
So our memberships are actually July 1st through June 30th. So if you sign up now, then we would keep you on until June 30th of 2016. So you get a little bit of a bonus.
do we get a star
We're
if
trying
we
to
give
get
it for a
everybody
Christmas
at the
present?
same time so that we don't run into this, I've expired, I haven't expired. And yes, you can have a star by your name.
Thank you.
You can have two.
Okay.
They'd be red stars for you.
I think Blue Star is probably more.
Gosh, it takes a whole team to get me here. Get me
Thank
plugged
you,
in.
thank you for all you do.
See you later.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Joyce.
Hi, Jim.
So long.
Say hi to your wife.
Mail.
Okay, next item on the agenda, e-cigarettes. David, Scott, welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
E-cigarettes, I provided some papers in a packet. Some of it's just for information from the Department of Health, and their give you a little background on that and what they think about e-cigarettes. But there is no state regulation of e-cigarettes, and the cigarettes are the device used to smoke a vapor. So you put in a liquid solution into the e-cigarette, and it turns it into vapor so you can inhale it. There's many different types of things that you can put into the e-cigarette, different types of vapors. Clearly it was made initially for nicotine, but there are other substances that theoretically could be put in there, whether they're harmful or not. So the regulation of e-cigarettes, when we talk about that, the state does not regulate the actual device itself. The state does regulate some substances. The state regulates tobacco in any form, whether it's this liquid nicotine or not, and it regulates any illicit substances, but it doesn't prohibit the cigarette itself. If you look in the materials, I provided some tobacco laws and regulations for any background that you want to look at. Clearly, some of the same issues regarding tobacco use and restrictions and laws would apply or could apply to e-cigarettes. They restrict coupons, sampling of tobacco products, vending machines where you can get the cigarettes out of vending machines, etc. There are penalties for selling to minors. The penalties are typically monetary fines. There is a misdemeanor for providing tobacco products to minors. A minor is 18 and younger. So it's different than the minor for alcohol, which is 21 and below. And the same with marijuana, has the age at 21 and below. Tobacco is 18 and younger.
No, it's legal at 18. So
Yeah, so the age limit is different for tobacco and marijuana. You have to be 21 in order to legally possess those, and it's a lower age for tobacco.
Excuse me, when the vapor, does it have a residue or an odor to it?
I don't know the answer to any of the scientific, or I haven't ever used one or seen one, whether or not there's any residue to it. My understanding is that they thought it would be better because you have the secondhand smoke effect with tobacco and e-cigarettes. Instead, you're just having a vapor, and you wouldn't have that lingering smoke, secondhand smoke. Whether or not that's accurate as these things are studied further is still to be determined, I think. I think there's arguments on both sides, depending on what articles you look at. I put in a couple of examples. If the city is desirous to have a e-cigarette ordinance, a couple of examples that could be used. One is Clark County's code that they adopted, I believe that was in 2011. And that code focuses on retailers, that you cannot sell e-cigarettes to minors, that they would also have to ID anyone that looks like they're around 26 or younger, just like they would tobacco products. They have in the ordinance that the health department is the one that actually enforces the ordinance. And then if there is a violation of the ordinance, then it's a monetary penalty. And again, this is Clark County's ordinance is only focusing on retailers. It's not focusing on minors possessing or using the e-cigarettes. It also has some of the things that are similar to tobacco as far as sampling and not allowing coupons for these products, restricting mechanical sales, etc. The other example that was provided was Airway Heights, and that is similar to Clark County, except it adds a monetary penalty for minors who actually are possessing the e-cigarettes, and it also indicates that both the police department and the health department would be the ones that would be enforcing that code, but it's still a monetary penalty as opposed to a misdemeanor crime. So if the city was desirous to enact an ordinance, some things to consider would be what kind of age limit do we want to have? Do we want it to be the same as tobacco or something higher, as 21 would be for alcohol and marijuana? Another thing to consider is do we want to treat it as cigarettes and kind of have it be prohibited in public places, just like smoking tobacco is prohibited in public places?
Does anybody do that?
There are a few that do that, yes.
Not Airway Heights?
Not Airway Heights. I thought Airway Heights had it, but when I reviewed it again before today, it wasn't in here. But
well, I had an experience at an airport in California where someone pulled out an e-cigarette, and they told them to stop. It was against the city ordinance there. It was Fresno Airport, so they must have an ordinance there. Maybe just apply to their airport. They own the airport.
So again, it goes back to what you were asking. You know, are there any effects of the after they inhale the vapor? Are there any side effects for that? And I don't know the answer to that. That might be something to consider.
If we treat it just as can we treat them just as cigarettes? So all the laws that are already in place for cigarettes would apply to the e-cigarettes? Is that, or is it more complicated than that?
I think it's probably a little more complicated than that because the cigarettes are they're in so many different sections of the statutes within the state law for us to be able to find each one and then make a specific decision. Do we want this to apply or not? Might be difficult, but I mean, it could be done if that's how the council would like to do it. But it seems like the other jurisdictions that are enacting these types of ordinances are not doing it in that manner. They're defining what an e-cigarette is, because it could be the cigarette, it could be those hookah things, and there's other types of devices that they have that have the same effect. So they define that, and then they specifically prohibit certain aspects of it.
This really came up at my behest, and so my hope, frankly, was that by simply defining e-cigarettes, electronic cigarettes and electronic pipes are cigarettes for the purpose of the enforcement of the law of the state of Washington within the city of Washougal. Just define it. It is a cigarette. Therefore, it's all of the laws in the state of Washington that apply to cigarettes apply to e-cigarettes. Similarly, especially for the tobacco-based or synthetic products which are tobacco or nicotine analogs, they are tobacco. And all of the Washington laws concerning tobacco apply similarly. And similarly, the use of those devices is defined as smoking, and all of the Washington laws apply there. I was hoping that it would be that easy.
Well, I think when we're talking about cigarettes, we're talking about kind of one device. You got the tobacco inside of the cigarette itself, and then there's the smoke. And here we're talking about a device that could be used for nicotine or could be used for some flavored water that could be inhaled or something else. And then we're separating the device from the actual product that's being put in. The tobacco product that's put in is still regulated by the state laws because it's tobacco, whether it's smoked or vaporized.
Suppose it's synthetic nicotine. Suppose it never came from a plant.
Well, and that's, I think, might be part of the difficulty of just saying this is a cigarette, because when you look at the tobacco laws, are they regulating the actual paper stick itself and the filter, or are they actually regulating the tobacco product? I believe that the regulation has to do with the tobacco product, other than maybe the Clean Air Act portion, which is talking about you can't smoke, and so because of the smoke that comes out and the secondhand smoke, but the rest of it might be related more to the tobacco product and what's put into the e-cigarette or the cigarette roll.
You know, I was just hoping to get away easy by defining anything that had been tobacco or was a chemical analog of a tobacco product is tobacco. And that solves all of your definitional problems.
Is that something that can be done? Can a municipality expand the definition that's in a WAC or a statute for the purposes of the applicability of the regulations within the municipality alone? I don't know that you can be expansive. That's what
I think it's a problem.
And yeah, I mean, when we're talking about the state laws, are we talking about cigarettes, or are we talking about, we're regulating tobacco, and that's what we're regulating as a state, not the smoking part, other than maybe the Clean Air Act section when we're talking about actually smoking. And
this is why you think
so that's why I'm thinking it going, that's probably why all the other jurisdictions went their own route. And I think there's decent definitions with what everybody else has been using. And to define the e-cigarette as a different entity, because we're regulating the cigarette itself, not necessarily the product being put into the cigarette. And it would be difficult, I think, to regulate putting the product being put into the cigarette, because we'd have to define, well, what types of products are we regulating or not. If they just want to put in flavored water and that's it, and they want to inhale that, are we regulating that, or are we regulating the liquid nicotine tobacco product or other things?
Is it definite that there are other things that go in those e-cigarettes than tobacco?
Well, in all the articles that I've reviewed about this, that there are different substances, and
is it like a cartridge they put into the cartridge? I've seen them because my son has used them, but it's always been nicotine. They come loaded. It's not like you personally choose, today I feel like smoking this specific thing, and you open it up and load it.
Well, there's a difference between an e-cigarette and then you got the hookah.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different story.
And it's the same concept as far as...
E-cigarette, though, is completely loaded. You would have to purchase it, and I'm not sure if it comes different or not.
Well, just today when I was looking at an article, they had a picture of someone actually having a tube or a bottle that kind of looks like a Visine that you put in your eyes, and they were having problems with children grabbing those and thinking that they're eye drops and putting in their eyes or putting them on their hands, and it's actual a container to refill the e-cigarette or the other device.
If you look at the on page 1 of Scott's handouts, the Department of Health talks about electronic cigarettes and vaping and lists this long list of the devices. And some of the devices certainly are probably, single use. You buy it, it's loaded, and then you're done with it. But there's things that might be considered e-cigarettes that are refillable and rechargeable, and they're pens or they're pipes. There's all different kinds of
Did
things.
you say it was under the Food and Drug Administration link?
No, it's the Washington State Department of Health. It's the first page in your packet of the materials that Scott provided. And just very generally, one of the purposes of this workshop was at the request of council to introduce this topic to the council to determine whether or not the council, there's a threshold question first. The threshold question is the council interested in directing the staff to come up with some form of regulation of this type of a thing, yes or no? If so, then we would come back again to talk to you about what those would be. A couple of examples were provided today.
I have a threshold question.
Take that. Pass it
Before we
down.
spend a lot of resources working on this. Is this a problem? Has it been a problem in Washougal?
I don't know. I haven't researched
I
that.
recently have had definitely anecdotal stories told to me by high school kids in Washougal High School, about Washougal High School, that this is an article in the Columbian this morning, that recently, within the past few months, there are a lot of e-cigarettes that are available that look like pens. And so now you have kids sitting in the back of the classroom chewing on their pens. Are they chewing on their pens or are they vaping? And two of these Washougal High School students have said it's getting to be quite a problem, that you can smell it back there.
Well, schools have that already covered in tobacco.
Well, they have a policy, but the problem is, imagine yourself as a teacher sitting up at the front of the room and some kid 12 rows back is chewing on what looks like a pen. Are they vaping or are they chewing on a pen?
But is that a problem for us?
I think it is.
You're saying that happened at Washougal High School?
I'm saying
So-
that several students have told me that it is a problem at Washougal High School.
What is the Washougal High School doing?
Dave? From the information you provided and from my own research, it appears there are a number of unanswered questions. It also appears to me that the research is beginning to weigh the scale down in terms of this is a potential problem. So I'm in favor of regulating it on that basis.
One of the cities you gave us is fining the individual, underage individual. What is the regulation with cigarettes for people underage? I've never heard of a fine being attached.
There is a fine that can be levied. In fact, I have a statute here, RCW 70.155.080, if you care about the statute site. But a person under the age of 18 who purchases or attempts to purchase, possesses, or obtains cigarettes or tobacco products commits a Class 3 civil infraction subject to a fine and possibly up to 4 hours of community restitution or both, and a municipal or district court can also require participation in a smoking cessation program.
Has anybody ever in your life heard of a police officer
Sure.
enforcing that?
Sure, we do. Small communities do everywhere around the schools. It's their
Well,
legal entry to start talking to them
We've
about
had
other things.
a lot of conversations just about marijuana before it was legalized. And our police department was saying, well, we know that they're not gonna prosecute under a certain amount, so we don't. And so, and we're talking
I'm not saying
about-
that we cite people for it, and youths for it. I'm saying that our police officers have interaction with kids, that the first reason for them to be able to do it is that they know that they're not 18 and they're across the street smoking a cigarette.
And when I spoke with Ron Mitchell about this, got his thoughts, certainly that was one of his questions, are they going to go out and enforce this? But the second thought that we discussed was if this was something that the council wanted to enact, that and if there was some local campaign to the local retailers to indicate that, hey, you know, this is no longer permissible, we have an ordinance, it might act as a deterrent. So that's certainly one conversation that we had. limiting the ability of the youth to obtain the e-cigarettes.
Michelle?
So I had a question about the Clark County ordinance that you provided for us here. How does that impact us? Because it looks like they have some restrictions about
Only applies in the unincorporated area.
unincorporated,
Yeah,
so
that
it
would be
doesn't.
Clark County, not within Washougal.
And so currently with e-cigarettes, are you able to sell to minors? Is it legal then? Or
Currently, there are no regulations, state regulations or federal
federal
regulations
regulations.
or municipal regulations about e-cigarettes,
The device.
the device itself. Now, the products could be regulated depending on what the product is that they're pouring into it, whether it's tobacco or an illicit substance or water.
So if they were selling a product that came already loaded with a tobacco
Then that would be considered.
liquid, they cannot sell that to a minor.
But
But
they
if
can
it's
sell-
an empty
Mm.
pen,
Okay,
then that device is not regulated,
okay.
But we
And so
could
does this,
regulate it.
but we could regulate it.
does the city get into trouble then doing these additional, imposing upon businesses to, require them not to sell a device, for instance, to 18-year-olds? Is that something that would be questioned or
I don't-
legally, or?
I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
that the city has the ability to do that.
Okay, Joe?
Well, I'm very interested in regulating it personally. I just express such a frustration that there probably won't be a lot of enforcement of it. I would still like to see the regulations on the books. For my co-counselors, that's
Well,
sharing that.
I was the one who brought it up, so it's pretty clear where I am on this.
I think it'd be helpful for us to know, without, obviously taking a vote, what folks' sentiments are. This is not one of the things that Scott and Don's office has as part of their normal contract, so the meter is ticking on it.
It's not a high priority for me. I don't see it as a, it seems as far as the school district can take control of their classroom to regulate it there. And as far as sales go, how much of a hassle is it from going over to Camas to buy one of them? So that's just not high on my list. I'm not against it. I just don't think we have higher priorities.
It seems to me that if we prohibit it in Washougal, or make the laws in Washougal, again, that's not a broad enough reach to really make a big effect on the market. It's too easy to go someplace else. If this were a statewide push, and I was going to ask, is the state legislature thinking of doing anything about this?
Well, I think if individual cities show that they're concerned about it, then the legislature would say, hey, a number of cities have expressed this, they've enacted ordinances.
Is there
It
anything
sends
in
a
the
message to them.
I haven't heard anything about it.
I haven't heard anything. I think Councilmember Shoemaker's probably
text one of our
on the ball
legislators
as
and
far
ask.
as, there's some research that probably still needs to be done as to the exact effect that it has on others and whatnot before the state might get involved in that. But other cities have enacted this.
And our own county.
I think until such time as the research weighs more heavily on the safe side, I think it's worth doing. And I understand your point, and I understand your point. It costs to do this. Is there not some municipality that's done this well that we could copy?
We've got two examples that we showed today that would make it pretty straightforward for us to incorporate into our own code. I think the bulk of the work has probably already been done if we follow the models. And we have two models.
And that's, your presentation included at least one of those. I guess there were two.
Two, right?
Oh.
One that just regulated some retailers prohibiting sales, and one that actually included possession by the minor and fining them.
Good.
I think is the main difference between the two.
Yeah.
And then you could add, if you wanted to add one more step and say, hey, you're prohibited from smoking or vaping anywhere in the city of Washougal in a public place, kind of like the Clean Air Act would have.
I wouldn't have any objection to that, but I would think the first priority ought to be regulation of the sale of it.
I would be for doing something like that, but I wouldn't want to extend an exorbitant amount of resources or time if it's something that's already done for us.
Just combine those into one.
The thing I would, as Sean pointed out, that very often what you want is a reason to begin a conversation on the part of the police. And at the moment, the school resource officer doesn't have a basis to begin that conversation. On the other hand, if we give them that second choice, which includes not only regulation of sale, but also possession, that does give them the tool to start the conversation. Even if that's the only enforcement that happens, it's still worth doing.
You know, my impression is that the best conversation that the school resource officers have doesn't begin with enforcement. It begins with a personal relationship with the students, where the students turn to the officer and say, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? He becomes the surrogate parent.
Like I say, I don't have any problem with it. I haven't heard have we actually heard, besides Councilmember Greenlee, that this being a problem, any of us?
I'm just generally aware on a personal level of information that's been in the media about children and exposure to some of these products. I think there was a story in the paper today that went around. I saw that this morning and I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? This is, I mean, it wasn't exactly about, you know, the little vials or whatever, although that's related to that. I thought it was sort of interesting that that was in the paper today, but.
And that was adults?
Yeah.
Not exclusively.
No, as I read through it, though, I kind of got that they were adults that were just waking up and getting it wrong, but.
Yeah, 154 emergency room visits this year.
Yep.
Jennifer, any thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I'm fine with looking more into it. That's fine. Just bring us something that's not going to run afoul of, you know, the law in any way, shape, or form. But it sounds like we need to have something on the books. It's just the latest and the greatest for the kids to use.
I missed the 154 emergency room visits. I'm sorry, Jennifer. What was that about?
So far in 2014, 150, I'll hand it back to you here. This is the, oops.
For putting nicotine in their eyes.
This is the,
okay.
This is the Columbian story of this morning, which actually ran to 2/3 of a full page.
Mm-hmm.
There's more about it down further in the article.
Yeah,
Page.
I mean,
It looks like it's a statewide number, maybe 154 emergency room nicotine exposure.
To the eyes. Okay.
Or maybe children getting a hold of the liquid and playing with it and putting it in their mouth or whatever. Just
Okay.
yeah, I mean, until the FDA or the state comes down and you know, regulates the advertising, etc., maybe we should just.
So
be
it sounds
proactive.
like in the cases of these 154 people, the parents are negligent in having well, an adult is being irresponsible. So having an ordinance would give us some teeth to possibly deal with
Gives it publicity
them
also.
accidentally being irresponsible, whether it's intentional or accidental. So.
Do you feel that the airway heights, or is airway heights anyway?
Spokane.
Near Spokane.
Okay. Is it, is sufficient?
Yeah, I don't think that they're too long. I think that, to be honest, if we look at a broad range in Washougal, the state of Washington, what we found on municipal research is most of them are quite similar. Just a few sentences here that are changed. The main difference between the Airway Heights and Clark County was Clark County just had prohibitions for retailers selling, where the Airway Heights took it one step further and said the children shouldn't be possessing And I believe that there's another ordinance in another municipality that actually prohibits the actual vaping, the smoking of it, just as it would cigarettes.
And my thought is that we'll bring a draft ordinance for a workshop, and then get your feedback then. We'll fully load it with all of that, and then we can get some guidance from you about that, and then ultimately, when it's in front of you for action, you can choose to take a section of it out if you want to. It won't, it's not going to be a huge project for us at this point. I think the work's mostly been done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, C-Tran and RTC representation. Obviously, we've got, with some of the decisions made from the C-Tran board composition committee, there's a little bit of work that we need to do with the interlocal agreement that we have with Camas that speaks about the seats that we have for C-Tran and RTC, specifically making sure and taking the C-Tran portion out of there because it no longer applies after January 1st. So we wanted to make sure and have this discussion with you to see if the council, this agreement itself was really born about between one of our council members, one of Camus's council members getting together to go over the shared seat, which would now be RTC, and how we handle that, what the rotation is, those type of mechanics. So if that's a direction that you would like us to go to try and rework this, or are there other things that you would like us to do? I think one of the other questions that is out there is in regard to the RTC seat. Our agreement calls for us to do a 2-year rotation, which for this year, by kind of mutual consent without ever, I don't think we ever took a vote on it, between the two cities, extending those for the 3rd year because of the composition, the C-Tran board composition, and just kind of leaving things as they were until we had a resolution to that. So it's kind of gone into a 3rd year, and I know this year, I believe Melissa Smith from Camas is vice chair. So if, I think they're looking for some direction on where we might want to go, because we're in kind of unknown territory.
She's there for 2014 as the vice chair?
Yes.
And it ends in December?
Correct.
Tomorrow night is the election of officers for 2015. It hasn't been in place long enough to call it a tradition. For instance, Chuck Crumpacker was RTC chair several times in a row. In general, that's not how it's done now. The rough idea is that you rotate from large city to county commission to small city. That was kind of tripped up a little bit when Steve Stewart, who was vice chair, and the other piece is that typically the vice chair becomes the chair. That got tripped up a little bit when Steve Stewart, who was vice chair, resigned to take his job at Ridgefield. In the ensuing election, Melissa Smith won vice chair. There is some reason to believe, certainly not a certainty, that she would become chair for 15 and then would go off. Having an East County representative as chair, I believe, is actually useful to us. I'm the alternate, and I've gone to, unless I had an irresolvable conflict, I've gone to all of the meetings. I think Melissa will do good things for us. She's very in tune with the East County issues. So in order for her to be chair, I think we need to leave her there. And then we would appoint an alternate at our first meeting in January. And as far as C-Tran goes, the actual change in composition, as I understand it, can't take place until C-Tran changes its bylaws. And because of notice requirements, they can't do that until the January meeting.
I can say, excuse me, Mayor, I can say that, and this doesn't really have to do with this agreement, but it's contextual in that line, and that is that Jeff Ham at C-Tran asked all of us in the small cities that are now getting our own seat for the name, wants the name of the person who is going to be our representative, and I informed him that we could get that to him in the evening of January 12th or the morning of January 13th. January 13th is the first meeting in January. Right. It's the second Tuesday, and he said that that would be fine. So they are interested in having that person, our person, our own separate seat, be at that meeting. Now, I don't know if that's to sit as a board member right away at the start of the meeting, or there's going to be some action and then they get to come up and sit down. I'm not sure about those details. But for this agreement that we have, from a staff perspective, the very simplest thing to do is to simply cross out everything that has to do with C-Tran and leave it just the way it is. It says we trade, we do it on a 2-year rotation. It can be extended when a member is running through the chairs. I can't remember the exact language we use, but it's potentially what's happening now. There was that added year in there because we had this anomaly of the Board Composition Review Committee for C-Tran. So that year kind of doesn't count in a sense, but we have not had a RTC seat. Now this is the third year, 12, 13, and 14. And then the way you handle differences between the representative from whichever city and the collective persuasion of council members is this supermajority removal thing. If you recall in the agreement, it says you're supposed to check in, you're supposed to consult when there's big ticket items in front of the governing body of, in this case, it would just be the RTC. You're supposed to check in with both of your councils. And if 10 members of the 14 members of the two councils were so aggrieved through votes at each of the councils, the person could be replaced, and that's sort of the check and balance and accountability piece. My suggestion is that worked for us before. That was a compromise position that was worked out by previous councils, and you know, it's worked to date. This is just going to be this awkward thing where now that we have our own seat in C-Tran, it's our turn next for RTC, but does Camus get one more simply because Melissa might be the chair? We might know more about that very soon. And if she is not elected to be the chair, then that would probably indicate, why don't we go ahead and take our turn in 2015?
I would agree.
Whereas if she is appointed to be the chair, then there would be some, the agreement kind of looks at that and anticipates that, and it could make sense to allow her to sit there as the chair, if she is the chair.
With the exception of that 4th year, I think that's why some folks in Camas are asking Washougal specifically, how do you feel about that? Because the agreement anticipated a 3rd year, not a 4th year.
Right?
And
So
that's where it starts to get squirrely.
and if that's uncomfortable for the council, we could let Camus know that.
Dave?
How long has Melissa Smith been on the Camas Council?
Oh,
I don't know.
a dozen years? Something like that.
12, really?
A bunch.
She was just reelected in this past election as well, so she's in the first of her 4-year term.
That's all I need to know. Thanks.
Is that right? I think she was just reelected. I might be getting that wrong.
Well, I'm concerned that we haven't had someone on there for 3 years. It's our turn. And these chairmanship things, I don't know how much, I mean, in reality, how much power is that? How much ability does that bring? I'm not so sure. I don't know. I think we ought to ask for our turn.
I think it depends a lot on the person a lot on the chairman. If they're an active chairman, they can wield a lot of power because they work more closely with the staff than anybody. If they're not an active chairman, if they're just warming the seat, there's no power there to lose, and we should take our. And Paul, you would know better than I, and I think you recommended her.
I nominated her for vice chair.
Okay. Well,
Because she was, her brother had passed away 2 days before that meeting, and so she was not available for the meeting. And so I sat in as alternate. I think what's true is that we don't know, will not know until Wednesday morning, or actually 5:30 tomorrow, whether Melissa is chair or not.
Well, you could.
I'm sorry?
You could.
What?
If you as a council signal that you want that seat back, we would relay that information to Camus. Camus would not retain her in the seat. I think this is one of those areas where, you know, for whatever purposes folks want to look at partnerships, they're actually asking us, what does your council think on this one? We're not assuming or presupposing anything. This one's a little odd. So
why don't we give them the chance to find out whether or not she's going to be chair?
And if she gets the chair, we still want our seat back,
but then you've gone through it for futility. They're going to
it's
have
for no
another vote.
reason. Yeah.
Jennifer?
I guess my question is she interested in the chair position?
Yes, I had a conversation with her this afternoon,
Okay.
and she is, yes.
Paul, may I ask a question? Paul, do you have any idea? I've just sent her an email, which I don't expect to get a response while we're sitting here, but it could happen. Do you know where she stands on the East County Bridge as far as what direction Camus is giving her to voice their opinions at RTC? As she's representing us and them.
RTC it's one of those organizations that's really not in charge of its destiny. What you do is you follow all of the rules. And the rules are sufficiently complex that that's quite a job. That you have the Washington State Growth Management Act and the Clark County Comprehensive Plan, but you also have a comprehensive plan for Metro in Oregon, Skamania County, and Klickitat County.
Which is the regional
All of which then become
area.
a metropolitan transportation plan.
And the short answer to your question is probably not. It's
Yeah,
6:35.
let's go ahead and adjourn this one. I'll make sure and bring this
Not
item back
likely.
up while we're
Not
talking
likely
about
Because she would support
appointments
it.
committee and that type of stuff as well, so.
Not
Well,
likely.
that
Now we will be adjourned
Anybody
until
in
7.
Camas would.
The reason I asked